Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check today's video out. And guys, today I just sort of want to have a laid back conversation on what I've learned about bass fishing in the month of May. At the time of filming this video, it's the 2nd of May. We got the whole month ahead of us. And guys, I think that probably April and May are two of the best bass fishing months of the whole year. So I want to give you guys just talk about some things that's worked for me over the years, and I think it's going to add up to some good fish for you guys in the long run here. Also, guys, for get started, a couple quick housekeeping tips. Just want to invite everybody, if you haven't had a chance, to please check out and use that Tackle Warehouse link I put in my video descriptions. You guys hear me talking about that a lot, but if you're one of the viewers that have been using that link to purchase all your fishing gear, a big thank you from me and my family. We really appreciate that, as well as the other links we have in the description. And also, guys, we do have our summer Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns up on the link that I build for Fish the Moment. I'll put that in the description as well if you guys would like to get one of the lake map breakdowns that I build. And also, if you do buy a lake map breakdown, guys, please feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions about it, and I'd be glad to help you out there. Okay, dragging a little bit this morning, guys, man. It's one of those deals. I did not get to bed last night till like 1:30 in the morning, and I had to get up like at 5:30, so dragging a little bit if I seem a little sleepy here. But I just want to talk about May bass fishing. I sort of want to talk about it so to throw everybody a bone out there, depending upon what part of the country you live in, because through the course of me fishing tournaments since the 1980s, I've fished all over the country in the month of May. I've probably fished, 20 different states in the month of May. So I got a pretty good vibe on what's going on with the fisheries here. Now, first of all, a lot of the May bass fishing that you have, it depends on the geographical region that you're in. If you're way down south, the seasons down south, if you say, for example, if you fish Florida and the Gulf Coast states like that down south, you don't really have 4 distinct seasons. So the seasonal movements and the patterns of bass don't really hold true down south like they do the rest part of the country. But if you live throughout the mid part of the country, anywhere from between like the mid Georgia, North Georgia, mid Alabama, all the way up to like Ohio, which where majority of the bass anglers live, coast to coast, this is going to apply to you guys. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about what their bass are doing and some things that you need to look for. Again, depending upon the weather patterns and the part of the country that you're in, May, you could have bass spawning in May. You could even have some pre-spawn bass in May if you're up north, or you could have post-spawn bass. Now, for most parts of the country, in May, you have a small percentage of bass that are still spawning, but you got a large percentage of the bass that are in the pre-spawn phase. Different aspects of the pre-spawn phase. Some of the bass are still garden fry, and some of them have already moved out to their deep water offshore areas for the summer. So that's one variable with it. But the overwhelming thing that I want to talk about and share with you guys today in May is how to catch bass in shallow water out of May, because there's still a tremendous amount of fish that live and use that shallow water. If you live on like a TVA lake or some place down south, you may have some fish that move out deeper in those offshore areas, but still you're going to have, even in those lakes, you're going to have a lot of different fish that are in that shallow water. And the reason that they stay shallow in the month of May is a lot of different reasons. Number one is they're still hanging out in relationship to the spawn. There may be gardens and fry. They may be feeding up after the rigors of spawning. Water temperatures are still not real hot. There's a lot of life up shallow. In the month of May, you have snakes in the water, you got frogs in the water, you got birds moving around. There's just a lot of feeding opportunities in shallow water in May. So that's why it's a good time to fish shallow. So when I'm fishing in May, I'm usually always fishing less than 5 foot of water, almost every single time. So some of my favorite techniques that I fish this time of year is based upon the water clarity that I'm fishing. I sort of want to talk about, the examples of stained water, clear water, and some of the techniques that I like to use. Okay, now if you're fishing a lake that has some off-colored water in it, like water visibility of under 3 feet, one of the best lures that you can use in the month of May is a swim jig. I think that May is the #1 swim jig month of the year. Looks really good around any shallow cover. On a swim jig, you can catch them around anything in May. It's like you can catch them on bare banks, you can catch them on docks, shallow grass, shallow wood, whatever you have, shade, overhanging trees. Really, really good way to catch them. One of my favorite ways to do this is I like to throw a shad pattern swim jig this time of year for the most part, unless I'm fishing over grass. If you're fishing like submergent hydrilla and milfoil, I found that a green pumpkin works a little bit better than a shad. But if you're fishing hard structure like rocky banks or docks or wood, lay down trees, some type of a shad pattern is going to work really good. That's the main thing. And another thing with that is the profile and the size of swim jig that you use, again, is in relationship to the water clarity. I separate it into like 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, visibilities. If I'm fishing the water visibility that's really stained, off water and stained a little bit, I like a little bit larger profile jig with some type of a trailer on it that moves a lot of water. So I'll have something like a bulkier, white swim jig with maybe a Zoom, super speed crawl on it, or some guys use a Rage crawl, something that really, really, moves a lot of water and puts a lot of vibration in. If I'm fishing that marginal water, like the water visibility of say 1 to 2 foot, that's when I still say with a little bit larger version. But in this situation here, a lot of times I'm using a little bit more diminutive tail on it. Instead of that big wagon tail, a lot of times I'll use something like a Megabass, a Zoom a Zoom Z-Craw. It's got a curly tail on it, but it's more of a finessey curly tail. And sometimes I'll use like the Zoom Super Chunk with no trailer at all on it and just really work it and get that tail flapping. That works pretty good. And if I'm in clear water, say that water visibility is 2 to 3 feet, that's when I like to downsize to a smaller profile jig. Like Megabass makes that little 3/16 ounce Uzo swimmer, put some type of little small swim bait on it. That works really good for that. So swim jig is going to be really, really good. Now, the next thing, guys, in May is it's a really good time to pitch and flip in shallow water. And there's 3 primary lures that I use. One is a full-size jig, like my Block It Throwback jig, or some type of a creature bait, or some type of a finesse worm. So like a red bug or June bug Zoom trick worm is one of my favorite lures. Again, the Block It Throwback jig, color just depends on the water clarity, or like a Z-Hog or a Z-Craw. Just pitching it and flipping around whatever shallow cover. And one of the things you need to take advantage of if you do get that situation is May is probably the #1 month where you have high water conditions. So if you have flooded conditions like flooded bushes and flooded trees, this is the time of year you want to flip that stuff with the creature bait and the jig and the trick worm. Works really, really good with that. Now, if you have water levels that are normal or below normal, a big square bill is a really good bait. Say if that water visibility is under 2 feet, one of my favorite techniques is take a large square bill like that Megabass 2.0 S crank or some type of a 3-inch balsa square bill and crank rocky banks with it. Crank rocky channel banks, just fishing them parallel. Really, really good way to catch them. A lot of people don't use a square bill in May as much as they do like in the pre-spawn, but it can be a really, really deadly thing. And finally, guys, the other 2 baits are a chatterbait. If I've got some, shallow cover, especially shallow grass, a chatterbait can work really good. And in really dirty water, if you have water visibility of around, a foot or so, a big spinnerbait, like a big 3/4 ounce spinnerbait with a #7 willow leaf. Fish are feeding up on those big gizzard shad that are shallow in May, so that's a really good way to catch them. Now, if you've got cleaner water, let's say for the water visibility is over 3 or 4 foot, which is my favorite way to catch them in the month of May. If you let's say 4 feet. If you have 4 foot or greater of clarity in a lake that you're fishing, there's 3 baits that you need to fish in the month of May in that clear water. One is a walking topwater, like a Zero Spook, Super Spook, Megabass Diamante, fishing it in and around main lake and secondary points, especially on cloudy days. If you get a cloudy day that doesn't have much wind on it and you've got clear water, throw a walking topwater in the month of May. It's probably the best, topwater fishing you're going to have of the year. Now, if you have those same situations, if you have clear water, but you have a low light day with wind, or maybe even a partly cloudy day that's really windy, like, 10 or maybe 15 to 20, 25 mile an hour winds, put you on a big swim bait like that Megabass Mag Draft or some type of a glide bait. Like a 6 or 7 inch glide bait or a 6-inch Megabass Mag Draft, fished on rocky banks, wind-blowing banks, windy points. Great way to catch them in the month of May. It's really, really good way. And finally, one other thing you might want to consider, guys, if you do live down south a little bit, or if you fish the TVA impoundments, May is a really good time for deep cranking. Deep cranking, like with a Strike King 6XD, a Megabass, Deep 6, something like that, is a really good way to catch them in May. It seems like after about, the first part of June, they get off those big crankbaits, but get out there on the drops, the ledges, the points, and speed crank. Fish that big deep diving crankbait with a fast stop and go retrieve on those hard structure areas, and it's a really good way to catch them. But anyway, guys, if you gave me, just going back on everything, if you gave me my favorite ways to catch them that I've caught the most bass in May, one would be pitching and flipping flooded cover, especially with the jig, and the second would be a walking top water and clear water on those points. I've done really good on that. So anyway, I hope it helps you guys catch a few this month, and we'll check in later.